WWE is calling up 2 NXT stars to the main roster after WrestleMania. I'm going to tell you guys who it is and give you all the details there. We also have some AEW news, so let's just start off with that. The first news story, Jeff Cobb is returning to AEW. He's been calling out Kenny Omega. If you haven't been paying attention, New Japan, Jeff Cobb on an absolute roll. He has his sights on Kenny Omega, and he's made it very clear in recent weeks that's what he wants. And now, yet again, it's happening this time after the New Japan Cup. He is taking his shots at Kenny Omega. He says he's going to be on Dynamite next week, which is massive news. And there's a couple reasons as to why. But for those who have missed it, New Japan Pro Wrestling is also on fire. And there are a lot of big plans for New Japan, especially when you consider AEW and New Japan are looking at building the greatest pay-per-view ever, which is Forbidden Door 2. They have some big plans for it. And a way to do that is by having more New Japan talent on AEW way sooner than normal, which if this is actually accurate, this would be massive. So if you guys don't know, one of my biggest complaints last year during AEW's Forbidden Door pay-per-view was that a lot of guys were injured, and therefore it really led to a downfall of a pay-per-view build. The pay-per-view was great. Do not mix up my words. I like the pay-per-view, but it didn't actually have a great build. There was a lot of reasons for that. Logistically, injuries, a whole bunch of stuff. Now, with that being said, it appears that AEW and New Japan might be doing more of a crossover this time around and a lot sooner. We know that AEW really wants Forbidden Door 2 to be successful. Tony Khan, as always, is really big on selling his pay-per-views. And we saw what happened with Revolution. The numbers were actually down compared to their other pay-per-views. Forbidden Door 2 could be really successful with AEW properly introducing New Japan's talent to the American audience. Jeff Cobb coming to Dynamite in a couple of weeks just helps more people watching the product get familiarized with the talent. Keep in mind, we've also been seeing Aussie Open on AEW and Ring of Honor. So as more time goes on, hopefully AEW is introducing and showcasing more of the talent. I do like their partnership with New Japan. I hope this all works out. We'll see what happens. Don't forget, Kenny's got a big time match with Vikingo. And of course, he has this massive storyline that's now being built up with Hangman Page and the Young Bucks and the Elite and everything that's happening there. So a lot to pay attention to specifically with this story. I can't wait to see it. I like Jeff Cobb. There's rumors that Jeff Cobb could have been going to WWE. That doesn't appear to be happening as of this time. But as always, I'll keep you guys updated. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Roman Reigns. This is a very interesting news story because Roman Reigns is reportedly taking a break after he drops the title belts. Well, there's a little bit of a conflicting thing happening here. WrestleVotes ran a report that suggested that Roman Reigns is planning a significant break after WrestleMania. However, WrestleVotes also clarified on Twitter that they were told this is contingent on or if when Roman Reigns eventually loses the titles. As of now, those plans are not certain. So, if you didn't look at the second part of the report, you would just think that Roman Reigns is losing at WrestleMania and he's taking off TV, right? But now when you see that the report has been updated, it makes you think that Roman Reigns is still going to retain at WrestleMania, and then the rest will be figured out. Now, if you guys follow this channel, I talked about the other news the other day where Jey Uso was rumored to headline SummerSlam with Roman Reigns, which, by the way, would be taking place in Detroit. So if Roman Reigns theoretically retains at WrestleMania, if he's taking a break from WrestleMania after WrestleMania and he's holding both of those titles, I would 1,000,000% say this with a straight face. That is a terrible idea. Okay? You need to split up those titles. If Roman Reigns is retaining the championship belts at WrestleMania or if Cody wins both titles, it doesn't matter. Raw needs their own champion. SmackDown needs their own champion. There is no debate. I love the Bloodline storyline. It's the greatest storyline in pro wrestling history. Hate me if you want. That's how I view it. But ultimately, it is a very bad thing when your world champion is holding those titles and those titles aren't being shown on TV all the time. It's also a really bad thing for Roman Reigns if he wins at WrestleMania and then takes a break after WrestleMania. Well, then what about Backlash and what about every other pay-per-view between then and SummerSlam? So there are a lot of rumors about Roman possibly being in a six-man tag at Backlash. There's a lot of things that are being rumored and hyped up right now. But my best guess is at this time, if Roman Reigns does take a break, which is reasonable, He should be allowed to take a break. Wrestlers, if they want a break, they should be able to take one. There's no issue with that. I just don't want to see this being a situation where he takes a break and then he doesn't have then he's still holding the championship belts. I also want to point out too that if and when Roman loses the titles, that's a big part of it. Maybe he drops the belts at SummerSlam. I don't think Roman will be holding the belts further than SummerSlam at the very latest. If he wants to take a break after he drops the titles, cool, no problem, whatever. But it's time that WWE takes control of these titles and splits them up. It's really important that they do that. I think it's very, very important that WWE does that because it does hurt the overall show without having both of those titles being defended pretty regularly. And for our final story of today's video, guys, WWE's main roster call-ups, it's happening. According to Worked Wrestling, who has been killing it with some big reports on Twitter, they have tweeted out today that 2 WWE NXT talents are slated to be main roster mainstays in the next few months following WrestleMania. And these two are Cameron Grimes and Braun Breaker, which, by the way, is very cool, in my opinion. We've talked about call-ups. We've talked about Cameron Grimes being prepared for a call-up. This is not necessarily revolutionary news, but the idea that it is expected to happen after WrestleMania makes a lot of sense. There's been a lot of talk about call-ups, and I kind of want to talk about it in this video right now, that we're not expecting some major debuts or major returns in the near future. Obviously, things can change. However, the idea is for WWE to refresh the rosters with the draft. So the belief is that Braun Breaker, Cameron Grimes, they probably won't even be part of the draft. They'll probably just get introduced to the main roster right away, which makes a lot of sense. And if you guys didn't know, there's two things that WWE has done recently. One, Braun Breaker was in a new Snickers commercial with AJ Styles. That's a very massive deal considering he's the NXT champion. It's more than likely safe to say Carmelo Hayes is going to be the guy that takes the belt off of Braun Breaker. Nothing wrong with that. Both of those guys are incredible. And then the second thing is Cameron Grimes, he's been working some dark matches and stuff, so it's not like he's completely in limbo, but he's been slated for a main roster debut, and just based on timing and stuff, nothing has happened. What's really crazy, though, is Cameron Grimes is actually a lot more jacked now. His whole image has changed. He's shaved his beard, or trimmed his beard, I should say. So now Cameron Grimes is going to go into the main roster looking completely different from what we've seen him as. I'm curious to see how everything goes down, but WWE is planning these main roster debuts, and there's more that are expected. I'm going to keep you guys updated along the way. I think this is really great news, though. Braun Breaker, hell of a talent. I can't wait to see what WWE does, but I'll talk more about this in detail on More Ango. So if you guys aren't subscribed there, check out the link in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.